You know, Joseph was very close to his father, and as a result of that, he was very close to his brothers during his father's lifetime while they were in Egypt. After his father's death, he shied away a little bit from his brothers. And it wasn't because he didn't like them, it was that there was no imperative to be exceptionally close to them, because he didn't have to make his father feel better. That didn't mean that Yosef wasn't close to his brothers, it's just that he didn't have the same connection, the same relationship, because while he visited his father, he would also visit his brothers. Now that his father was gone, he wouldn't visit as often. And so the brothers misinterpreted this. The brothers had sold Joseph into slavery many years earlier. And they feared that perhaps Joseph was having a change of heart, that only as long as his father was alive would he not punish them. But now that father was gone, perhaps now he would pay them back for what they did to him. After all, 22 years away from his father, 22 years away from where his heart was, where his love was, being embarrassed and sold as a slave like a piece of meat. All of that was, of course, part of God's plan. But they had violated not just the trust, but violated many laws of the Torah. Kidnapping, selling a free person as a slave, and hiding the fact, conspiracy. Certainly they were guilty, but they felt they had done tshuva. They had changed their ways. And indeed, for the most part, they did. However, they feared that Yosef couldn't forgive them. So they came and prostrated themselves in front of Yosef, and they said, "Your father let us know before he died to tell you, forgive your brothers, despite the fact that they've done wrong to you, for they still worship the same God you do, so please forgive them." And Yosef, when he heard the brothers' statement, started crying. You got to understand, Yosef's not just a full-grown man, the most powerful man on earth. He wasn't just a viceroy for Pharaoh. He had carte blanche control of all the affairs of state. There was no one in the world that controlled an army like Yosef. No one in the world who could do acts of public works like Yosef. In fact, there is a midrash that says when Yosef was getting older, the people were saying, "This man is just old and feeble, and he's not even one of us. Why should we suffer him as the viceroy?" So Pharaoh asked them, "What do you suggest?" And he said, "Well, there are western territories which have no water. Let him find a way of bringing water to the western territories." Immediately Yosef gathered a small army of engineers and workers and dug a long, perhaps 100-mile ditch to the west and diverted some of the Nile River waters into this ditch. To this day, this is a rivulet that is called the River of Joseph. Incredible. So Yosef was the most powerful, most creative man on earth. Why is he crying? So let me illustrate for you, with the following story. There was a man who had two sons. One was Moshe, and the other was David. David was older, and David was far more charming, far more industrious. And both of them decided to try their luck in a different city. David became a big shot, he became a wealthy man. And Moshe was a schlepper. He was a melamed, a teacher of children. Moshe lived in the poorer side of town. David lived only among the elite, among the rich. And as time went on, David and Moshe had nothing to do with each other. Their father, his name was Beryl. And this Beryl didn't like what he heard. So he went and wrote them a letter that on this and this day he's coming to visit both of them. So, David, on that appointed day, told his wagon driver, go to the station and pick up my father and bring him home. So, Vasily, the wagon driver, came and said, hello, are you Beryl Chaskelevich? He says, yes, I am. He says, well, your son David has sent me to pick you up and bring you home. He says, David? I have no son David. I only have a son Moshe. As long as you're here, take me to Moshe. So Vasily was foolish, felt foolish, but he had to do what David's father told him to do, and he took him to Moshe. He came to the house and told David what had transpired, and David was fuming. Immediately took the wagon, went to Moshe's house, knocked on the door, and Beryl, his father, opened up. He says, Father, how are you? I haven't seen you such a long time. What are you doing here? Come home to my house. I'll give you kavod melachim, the honor of kings. And his father looked at him and says, excuse me? Who are you? He says, what do you mean? I'm your son David. He says, I only have a son Moshe. I've never seen you before. I know who you are. He says, what do you mean? By this time, the neighbors were all looking. This is quite embarrassing for this David. And Moshe also came out with his family. And they were having a jolly old time seeing David get frustrated. So finally David says to his father, I can prove to you that you're my father. He says, how? I've heard of a father adopting children. I've never heard of people adopting a father. I'm just an old 80-year-old man. So David begins. He says, who is this man, pointing to his son Moshe? He says, that's my son Moshe. But I, David, I'm his brother. And since I'm his brother and you're his father, you must also be my father. So the father says, aha. If the brother is a brother, then the father is a father. But if the brother is not a brother, then the father doesn't want to be a father. That's why Yosef cried. Yosef was trying to impress upon the brothers that the reason why they should be committed to each other was not because of their father. They came from one father, that's true. But many people come from one father. Abraham came from the same father as Noach. Yitzchak came from the same father as Ishmael, and Yitzchak came from the same father as Esau. And they didn't have much love between each other. That's not the way to make a nation. Only if you love your brother because he's your brother can you build a nation. And that was what they had been missing. And that's why he was crying. They didn't get it yet. My friends, only when all of Israel can look at each other and love each other because we are brothers will we be successful against what is going on around us. The Eibusher should help this will happen very soon.